Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Sully's Open Conversation, the show that aims to have an unfamiliar conversation in a familiar environment. We are back after a little break over summer, long overdue, and I am joined here with Catherine. Welcome,
Hello.
Catherine.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, thank you for coming on. So I've taken the drive up to St Albans to meet Catherine, who we met on Instagram, didn't we?
Yeah, on Instagram. You come across my
post. Yeah. It was an incredible caption, and I loved it, and I shared it. It's because I follow like hashtags on Instagram, so depression awareness, mental health awareness, that kind of stuff. And yeah, I came across Catherine's post, reshared it, and then we were connected, and she said she'd like to come and do the show.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be on a podcast, so
it's part of the bucket list.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi everyone, my name's Catherine. I'm 28, I'm a mum, and I have borderline personality disorder, which is kind of a big part of my everyday life. I love to be creative, I love YouTube, and yeah, that's me.
Lovely. And the way that we like to start each show is if you could name one positive experience that you've heard, seen or done recently.
Okay, so this might seem strange to some people, but for the first time in a very long time, my daughter told me that she missed me.
Oh.
We have a bit of a difficult relationship. I'm a single mum and I struggle with my mental health on a daily basis, so you know, as a 6-year-old, she's gonna
push the boundaries.
Yeah, she's gonna do that. So, you know, she's a social butterfly. She loves being out, and I think for me, I struggle to not have that connection fully that I want with her. So yeah, she'd been away for a couple of days, and I picked her up, and normally she never wants to come home. So that's difficult for me because you know she's my baby. Yeah, and she said to me, "I really missed you, Mum."
Oh.
And for me, that was like, that I felt a lot of joy and happiness genuine joy and happiness that I've not really felt for a long time. So that kept me going. That was big for me. Yeah.
That's very sweet. Very sweet.
That was lovely.
And so the most important question, I suppose, is how have you been doing mentally recently?
I don't want to sugarcoat things.
Please don't.
You know, I'd love to sit and say, great, yes, you know, I've been working on myself and I've been doing well, but to be honest, not great. I think I've recently come out of a relationship. Like I say, I have BPD, which is a struggle. I've not kind of got to grips with what works for me in terms of therapy and treatment, so I'm still kind of battling that. I've only known I've had it for the last year,
Wow.
and that might seem like a long time in the grand scheme of things, but it's not. So it's you know, trying to manage what works for me and how well I can cope with it. Yeah, it's been difficult. I've felt suicidal, which my post that was what my post was about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been difficult, but we keep going.
Keep persevering.
That's all we can do, and just try my best every day. But yeah.
So for those that don't know, BPD is borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
So could you kind of explain for some people, if they had never come across it before, what that kind of entails?
It's basically a condition that affects the way that you think, you feel when you interact with other people. You tend to have really difficult, intense, unstable relationships with people, friendships or romantic partners. You're emotionally unstable, you don't know how to process your thoughts and how you feel when you can get suicidal thoughts and quite low thoughts on a daily basis, really. And it's really difficult. It's kind of quite difficult to diagnose. There's not, you know, it's a grey area. The lines are blurred with it, really, and other personality disorders, but it is treatable. It's just really, it's a difficult one.
Yeah. So quite an interesting one actually is, so last year it was around this time last year that I was in hospital, and once I left, I'd had a diagnosis and had medication and things like that, and then really a massive shout out to GPIM, so it's like General Practitioner Intermediary Mental Health Services,
Okay,
which
yeah.
have been amazing. Like the time that I was with them, they were ringing me like every 3-4 weeks saying
Yeah.
like, how's the medication, what do
Yeah.
you need, like any questions, that sort of stuff. And one of the times that they rang me, they actually said like, so how have you dealt with your EUPD diagnosis? And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It had been almost a year and I hadn't been told that I had,
Really?
so EUPD is basically
Yes,
BPD,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, they like to. Yeah, mine was. It's pretty much the same. It's just BPD is more of an American term.
Right.
I just use that.
Yeah. It's easier,
It's
isn't
easier.
it?
Yeah, it's.
So like, when I heard it, I was kind of like, what even is it? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I was very kind of confused. And I didn't know whether that was to do with kind of, so when I was in the depths of my depression, it was like, it was onsetting OCD and things like
Yeah.
that. So I had a feeling that could have been a factor. I don't know. It's a strange one. Certainly speaking to you, it's
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, and everyone kind of puts you in the box of it.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone that has it is so different.
Yeah.
From each person. You know, I speak to people and I think, oh, they'd get it, but their symptoms, are different. Or they have different things. I can't regulate my emotions very well at all. But I've come across so many people that are in recovery with it, and I just think that's amazing. Like, you just think there's not really a light at the end of the tunnel with it.
Yeah.
But it's something you've got to work on all the time. I was very lucky to be diagnosed when I was, because I just pushed for it and I was like, no, I know I've got this. I'm very much a Googler. I Google everything that's wrong with me, and I was like, there's something wrong with me. Like, I know there is. This isn't just depression now. Like,
There's something else
I feel
going
a bit
on.
chaotic, really. So I just kept Googling stuff and it come up, and I thought years and years ago that I may have a personality disorder, but I think there's about 7
There's
of them.
loads,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you feel like you've got traits of each one, and I thought, no, I need to figure out what this is so I can have the treatment. And some people don't like to be diagnosed, some people do. For me, I needed to know what was wrong so I knew how to handle it.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I know I've got this. And they said, oh, we don't really like to diagnose because there's, I don't know, this doctor didn't really want to talk to me about it.
It can go kind of one or two ways, really, can't it? Because a diagnosis can either make you feel better in the
Yes,
sense that, like,
yeah.
oh, now I know what's going on, let's move forward and see what I can do to
Yeah.
kind of help it. Or you could be like, shit,
Yeah,
I've got this. Oh my
Yeah.
God, what do I do?
yeah.
How is this going to plan out?
Yeah.
Am I going to get better, kind of thing?
Yeah, and that's why they don't really like to, they tread on eggshells around the idea of it. But yeah, I was really grateful to push for it, and they said, okay, yeah, we'll put you through to the mental health team. I talked to a psychiatrist and I had a phone conversation. She said yeah, and she basically sent me a letter and said, hi, you've got it. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, you've got
Excuse me.
Yeah, so you've passed the test. So yeah, it was yeah.
So after the diagnosis, what happened then? So were you therapy? Was it?
So because of the symptoms I was displaying, I was quite aware, because I'd already Googled it and already knew what was kind of going on. I didn't know how to manage it, but I knew I was aware of what I had and why I had it and stuff. So, medication wasn't really an option for me, which I was quite upset about. They didn't put me through that, or psychotherapy, which they'd normally give. They put me on a life skills course, which is basically DBT, which is dialectical. I think that's pronounced
Behavioural
right.
therapy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Is that a talking therapy as well?
It's more of coping. So
Right.
when you're in distress skills,
Oh, I see what you mean.
mindfulness skills,
Yeah.
it's more of skills to kind of help you when you're in a if you're having an episode or you're just to get you out of an episode. It's managing the bit before you get to that is
Yeah.
the difficult part. And it does work really well. I've got a lot of books and stuff on it, and I actually read the book before I went onto the course, so I knew what it was, because as soon as I knew I had it, I looked at treatment online and I thought, right, I'm going to get a book. I'm going to do this, because
That's a
at this
positive
point,
way of reacting
yeah,
to
at
it.
this point, I've suffered since I was 16. So for 12 years, it gets a little bit tiring,
It does,
not
yeah,
having
yeah.
the support fully from the doctors. Just kind of have some medication, there you go. And I thought, I'm doing it on my own now.
Mm.
And no one else is going to help me. So that's it.
There's a tough thing, isn't it? Because certainly where we are with our services at the moment, there's just like not enough of it.
Yeah.
Funding is increasingly getting cut, and you're kind of thinking, this is our health service. If someone had broken their arm, they'd get the help they need.
Yeah.
If someone needed kind of treatment for cancer and things like that, they'd get the help they
Yeah.
need. So why is it so difficult for us?
I think it's so, like, I don't want to use popular because that's probably an awful word to describe it, but it is popular, and I actually think it ends up being a lot of youngsters as well. I personally think the doctors and the healthcare system look at it like, oh, another one.
Yeah.
It's like, is it really? I mean, I remember kind of being younger, and there was the fine line between it being attention seeking to be mentally unwell and actually the truth. And I think where it is so popular now, it's like, how bad is it for you, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting, because obviously certainly when we were that age as well, because mental health wasn't really being spoken about or aware, I remember when I was kind of like 14, 15 and really going through it, and kind of suicidal thoughts and self-harming and stuff.
Yeah.
I saw a counsellor at school and she said depression. I was like, what is that? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
never heard of anything like that before in my life.
Yeah, yeah. I remember like my first thought of wanting to self-harm and not wanting to be here anymore, and I thought, what's that? Like, where's that come from?
Yeah.
Why's my head just gone there? And then I don't think it become a habit, but it just become, oh, that's how I feel, and that's how I just continue to feel.
I mean, when I had it, I actually remember thinking, like, does everyone have this?
Yeah.
Is everyone thinking this way?
Yeah.
It was very strange. I was kind of like, oh, well, because no one spoke about it,
Yeah.
I assumed everyone did kind of have
Yeah.
those thoughts, but dealt with it anyway. So that's
Yeah.
what I tried to do.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, you can't.
Yeah. I mean, I was very open, I think, from not a young age, probably 19.
Right.
I was quite open about self-harming and how I felt. And I think I went into a state of like, oh, crap, like, what if I actually act on this, and what if I do this? And, you know, suicide, not self-harming. And I panicked and thought, I'm going to have to tell someone. And I've just kept that with me.
Wow.
I'm like, I have to tell someone because I will
You're
end
more
up
scared
doing
of yourself.
Yes, literally.
Wow.
And I still am. I'm like, and I think over time, the years go on, for me, it becomes more real, if that makes sense. Before it's like an idea, but as you have them thoughts, you know, over time, it's
More regularly and over time.
Yeah, it becomes more real. And I reach out a lot when I kind of have them thoughts.
Good.
It could just
Good.
be anyone. I'm like, hi, I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
You can't do a lot about it, but I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
And
And-
because I've told you, I now feel better. You might not. You might not know what to do, but you know.
That's kind of the perfect. I mean, it's not selfish, because in that way, when you do just lock it up and keep it to yourself, that is going to make you deteriorate.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get it out, for one, you can then understand what you're talking about and realise that it's
Yeah.
just stupid. Like,
Yeah.
they're just thoughts. It's not real. It's
Yeah.
not true, and it is just how we're conditioned. That's because we're
Yeah.
having them,
Yeah.
really. But to unleash it on someone, obviously, because it's not spoken about a lot, I'm sure they'll be
Yeah.
startled.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, for your benefit and progression,
Yeah.
that's a massive,
And I think
massive
where it's
thing.
spoken about a lot more now, it is, you know, even though it's uncomfortable for people to hear those things,
Yeah.
it's becoming more normal, which is awful, but that's what it is.
You don't, there's obviously a fine line between normalising the conversation and desensitising people to it.
Yeah.
And
And that, I think, is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Because the thing that I've found, certainly in mental health, and I've seen a few people say it as well, like, kind of when you're struggling, everyone has a lot of empathy and sympathy and wants you to be better. And then when you start getting better, they're kind of like, oh, they're done now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
They've just had a moment.
Yeah. When actually this can span a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's all about managing and controlling and knowing what works for you. Like I've
Yeah.
always said, mental health is so unique to the individual.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, someone with BPD might be totally different to how you are,
Yeah.
because it is totally down
Yeah.
to the uniqueness of the individual and what they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So something that you find mindful, someone might be like, I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah, and coping techniques are completely different. I speak to other people and I'm like, what works for you? And I'm like, oh, that doesn't that does not work for me.
It is, yeah. It's a tough one, really, isn't it? Because that means that you, even if you don't want to, or you don't see the point in it, you have to try and discover things that will actually get you into a better place.
Yeah.
And when you are...
For me, this actually feels like doing a degree at uni. I mean, I've never been to uni, so I don't know what that feels like. I can only imagine. It's like an actual course. I'm learning about my disorder, and one thing learning about it, right? Okay, and then try and save myself from it is. It's
really weird.
It's like I don't even know how. Sometimes I'm managing a job and other things. I just think it's so difficult, and I'm just trying to get a grasp on how to manage myself. It's
I think it's pretty amazing that once you had that diagnosis, though, and the first thing that you do is go and understand it, go and educate yourself on it.
I was practically having a party about it. I thought, oh my God, hallelujah! I'm like, I know what I've got. Thank you. I mean, some people probably think, oh, that's okay because I've just got that, but you need to, really work.
You need to understand it in order to be able to manage it.
Yeah.
And for the people around you, did they do similar? Were they?
No.
Really?
No. It's difficult. I wouldn't say I've really got many people around me that understand me or are open to understanding it. Not that I know about. I mean, they may have, but I don't. It's not something that people openly say to me. Oh, I understand you because of this, or I understand that you're feeling this way. It's just I kind of offload. This is what I've got. This is how I'm feeling, and they kind of say, okay. Like I say, relationships are really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I really do struggle in romantic relationships. Like, it's really hard.
Is it connection, or is it like paranoia, or is it what?
It's fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
That is the main. I would say anyone I've spoken to, we all very much have that in common. That is the biggest factor of our disorder, I would say.
Right.
And everything stems from that. So, someone can convince you they like you, they want to be with you. That doesn't, until you've worked on yourself, that doesn't matter. They can shout it from the rooftops. And until you understand that, and I think a lot of it you've got to do work on yourself and on your trauma or on your past. A lot of it is from your childhood or, and you have to go back to there to understand why you're like you are. It comes from somewhere.
Definitely, these things don't just crop up. And the funny thing is, certainly if it's past childhood traumas, the likelihood of you blocking that out or for trying to forget about it or unconsciously or subconsciously not thinking about it is what brings it, kind of makes it more difficult to actually handle and control.
Yeah.
Certainly when I started to go to therapy, basically, like before I'd had any kind of therapy, I just thought like my self-harming and suicidal thoughts and depression and stuff from like 14, 15 years old was just part of life, part of growing up. That's it. That has nothing to do with how I'm feeling right now. And then we revisited it, went over it, really started to process it kind of mentally and emotionally. And I was like, it's no wonder I've been feeling so shit.
And you know what? You feel sorry for your inner child.
Yeah.
You feel sorry for that person. And then that's a whole new world of emotions because you think, oh, I couldn't save you, I couldn't do anything. And that's really difficult to have to go back to that and pick apart, your whole life basically. But I think I always try and look at the positive of being the way I am. Not feel sorry for myself. I do at times.
You have to at times.
But a lot of it is, we can be really self-aware, which I think is so important in life.
Mm-hmm.
And we get the option to explore that. I mean, everyone's got the option to explore that, but it's something we kind of really do have to do. And other people may never kind of look at themselves like that and be self-aware and understand why, and look inwards. And I love that I've had the opportunity to do that because I can only grow from that and be better.
It's a blessing and a curse in a way, isn't it, really? Because the old saying, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
So if you are actually unaware of what's going on in your surroundings and kind of your inner self, then it's a lot, like, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So like when you are aware, self-aware and emotionally aware of both yourself and your surroundings,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a bombardment in a way.
Yeah.
You're kind of
Yeah.
like, and it adds different kind of perspectives and angles
Yeah.
to ways that you see situations and perceive things.
And you just want your mind to just be simple.
Just settle. Yeah, yeah.
Just simple.
Please
Make
just
it
let me look at the
simple.
grass and just say
Yeah.
it's green. Look, it's fine.
And move on, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't pick apart the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is wild. It is wild. But yeah, like I say, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, really,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So interestingly, obviously, having a mental illness and being a mum, how is that?
I think, I mean, I can't, I am only in my own body. I can only, say what I feel. But I think parenting alone, most difficult thing. Having BPD is the most difficult thing. When you put them together, it's I can't actually explain how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really difficult. And, being completely honest, for the first, she's nearly 6, for the first few years, I resented it because I didn't want to be here and I couldn't do anything about it. So I resented the situation and I found it very difficult to form a good relationship with her. And then her dad left, so it's been a whirlwind. But also, we've become closer than ever recently, and I think I can only feel blessed that I've been able to be vulnerable with her. Maybe a little bit too much, more than I'd like as my own child, but yeah, she understands me when I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
We call it washing machine head.
Oh,
I'm having a washing machine. She's
bless.
like, "Mummy's got washing machine head." I'm like, "Yeah," and she'll give me a minute. And it's hard because I don't want it to be like that with her, but it's, I've got to make it work, and she's so loving and comforting, and I think that's a positive. You know, she's really aware of her own emotions, and I have to look at the positive there. But it's really difficult, really difficult.
It's pretty amazing what you're doing, to be totally honest. I mean, like I couldn't even imagine myself having a child right now. And when I do, I like, have you kind of obviously she's quite young still, but when she grows up, are you going to expose her to how important it really is?
Yeah, it's going to be, I want it to be the main thing that I do in life. I don't want her to not end up like me. She's going to have, we all have childhood trauma, and she's going to, even now, I've overly been cautious of, is this going to affect her on in later life? What if I say this, and what happens if she's affected in that way? And I know that's going to happen, and all I can do is the best that I'm doing, and all I can do is explain that to her, and for her to be open from a young age that these things happen, and that, like, we are only doing the best that we can.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be open and honest. And I think that will be a positive in her life, having
Definitely.
someone that is open and honest and vulnerable, and I just want her to be happy. Happiness is the main thing in whatever way that comes for her. But yeah, I definitely want to be
proactive in keeping her aware and kind of understanding of what's, and like that's exactly what I think I will do if I do have kids. Basically, it's all about kind of keeping them. You want to shelter them a bit because you don't want to just let them have the full force of like how raw it can be. But having that awareness, certainly from a younger age, will allow them to be more empathetic to other people. And it allows them to build relationships and be far more understanding. I think a lot of what we have at the moment, especially in business, is people want to make it for themselves, whereas there are a lot of people out here right now that kind of want to help other people. And I think that's hello.
Oh, how lovely.
Hello. Got a little dog interrupting us.
How lovely. Slob it everywhere. Oh, okay.
Oh, and another.
Oh my God, how lovely.
So sweet.
She, Isabella said to me the other day, we were laughing and I don't know what I said, and she looked really shocked, and she said, "Mummy, you seem really happy. And I was like, and it's things like that. She's so innocent and so honest.
Yeah.
It's lovely to hear things like that because she brings me back to reality.
That can brighten your day, yeah,
and
100%.
reminds me of like, and I sat and I thought, yeah, actually, like I'm feeling a good sense of happiness right now, which is, you know,
which you don't get a lot from other people. Like you don't get people say, that's the kind of the young age coming through, that they have no filter, they can just say it.
And it's lovely.
And that, that must be so nice. God, if I was lying in bed like not wanting to get up, and that would just like change completely.
It's lovely.
That is so nice.
Lovely. And it's those little moments that I'm like,
that you
this
cherish.
is why I'm doing it, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
So.
Oh bless. So are you working at the moment?
Yes, I do cleaning and I do dog grooming. I've always worked. Work for me isn't something that I struggle to go to if I'm having a hard time. It keeps me occupied.
Nice.
But so I work a week and I would love a bit more of a sociable job, but it is.
Are you working for yourself? So you're kind of like self-employed, right? Yeah, which is a lot nicer.
Yeah, it is nicer, but also, you know, being a mum.
Yeah.
But sometimes when all the, you know, school holidays and everything else is happening, and I feel like she's never at school, I just feel like I'm, you know, not really working anymore. There's always something. So yeah, it's I do find being at work definitely helps me.
Right.
I've probably in the last 6 months noticed that as my mental health has kind of like deteriorated, I have had days off, and that's when I know that I am slipping, because I think work's never affected me.
Right. Yeah, that's like a kind of a notifier that things are going
that's
downhill.
like, oh, life is actually now getting like, I'm not holding it together by a thread, like that's actually breaking now. Like, no, I'm not working.
Hold up, wait a minute.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to like, you know, get on as normal. It's like work, being a mum. It's hard, but I just have to keep going with it. I don't know how I'm doing it, but we're just all doing it, aren't
You're smashing it.
We're just all doing it.
We're all doing it. We are all doing it.
We don't know how, but we are.
It is, yeah. So it was an interesting conversation that I was having with my mum yesterday, actually, because I thought, right, so when I was speaking to the GPIMs, I was pushing for maybe going for an ADHD diagnosis. But I mean, for adults, the waiting list is like 2-3 years now. But the more time has come on, we might try and see if we can get a diagnosis. Potentially could be bipolar, because I have noticed, especially in the past couple of months, I'll go through periods of mania. So bipolar basically used to be called manic depression. So you go through mania where it's like high energy levels, high intensity. You want to try and get everything done as quickly as possible, and then you'll go through a stage where you just slump. And you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I feeling like this? Why do I have to feel like this? So we've kind of, and my attention and remembering things is honestly like, there's just no point in telling me to remember something for like an hour later, because I will not remember it at all. So I think in terms of that, again, it's about whether the diagnosis will help or make it worse, because I'm currently being treated for depression and have medication and things like that. But then that's also why I'm thinking, why then do I still have like fairly long periods of time where I'm like in a dip? And it just is that thing with mental illness. Like, my parents know about it. Like, I can talk to them about it, but I don't want to. Like, I don't.
You don't benefit from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've kind of come away from the part of, well, if you talk about it, you feel better. No, I don't actually. I'm just telling you that I want to do something stupid because it's going to stop me from doing something stupid. Yeah. Talking to you, I think, probably makes me worse, because you don't understand. And because you don't understand, I can see it on your face you don't understand. So I've told you, and now I'm like, well, that was pointless. And sometimes, I'll be honest, it is like that, you know. And I know we say we should talk about it, and we should talk about it, because that's, you know, it needs to be shared.
You need exposure to it.
And,
you need exposure to it.
But it can be difficult. I think, I was very open to start with. And I like I say, I am open now. It's just what I say to people probably isn't the same kind of things that I used to say. It's just, I'm feeling this way, I need help. I know now to speak to the right people, if you know what I mean, rather than just
you know
kind of anyone.
who's receptive and who isn't.
But going back to the ADHD, it's funny you say that. When I was diagnosed, I said to her, can I, because I thought I had ADHD, and she said to me, we were going through the tests and stuff, because she said, I can't, wouldn't be able to formally diagnose you because she's personality disorders, but she said, we can go through some things. So she said to me, a lot of people with borderline personality disorder will have traits and show up symptoms of ADHD, because apparently the part of your brain that is lacking, that someone with an average brain, ADHD brain and BPD brain are very similar.
Are they similar? Are they? Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you'll she said it's just the BPD showing up basically.
Really?
And I'm not saying you haven't got that.
If
but
technically ever been diagnosed it, then it could well be.
But because I thought, and I also, it's crazy because I don't know if it's subconsciously, since being diagnosed with BPD, I forget things and I'm like, oh no, I had this and I had that, and I've organisation skills are awful.
Yeah.
But before, I would have had a party organised 8 months before, presents 9 months before, everything was sorted, everything was in place. I don't know if it was because I was living with someone and it was just easier not to have the load, but I noticed massively I dipped with being a bit more chaotic.
Yeah.
In terms of, and also as well, I'm very much, will spend 2 days hyperactive on something and I'm hyper focused and I'm doing that 2 days, the next day in a slump thinking, why did I bother doing that yesterday? I've no interest in that, or I don't even know what that was about. But
that's exactly what it's like. It's exactly what it's like.
And you just feel like it's pointless, don't you? But we still do it. And
but I also really weirdly, well, it's good that we're self-aware and we know what stage we're in, because I was actually driving up here in the car today thinking last week I felt like shit, and now I'm in a car well excited. I've been really kind of progressive and really proactive in doing things. How long is this going to last?
Literally.
Could be tomorrow. I'm just again
it's weird because I had one day, I think it was the last Sunday or the Sunday before, where I actually thought, I was walking along the beach and I thought, I don't want to be here. I actually don't want to be here. And it wasn't a feeling I've actually felt before. Normally when I have suicidal thoughts, it's because I'm having an episode and I'm crying, or I've come out of a relationship, or I cannot regulate my emotions and I'm having a breakdown. And normally that's when I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't know what to do. I can't cope with this. But this day I thought, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not wanting to be here. I'm content with that. And it was a peaceful day. I was present, and I don't know, I just had enough. And I thought, I've really had enough. I don't want to feel,
this way.
I don't want to feel this way.
Yeah.
I don't want to have the really good days and the bad days. But then also, later that day I got home, completely different person. I'm not loving life, but it was,
I'm doing great, look at me go.
I was thinking, but this is all right. I've got home, I've had a nice bath, and I'm really, appreciative of my day. And it's crazy. So it's like when you're having them thoughts, just take a minute.
Yeah.
Just take a minute. And I know it's easier said than done, but for people that are having those thoughts, it's easier to say don't act on them, but just literally have a minute. Just take a minute, because it will pass. Everything passes. Your good times pass, your bad times pass, everything passes. Literally have the minute, because you will feel different.
It's taking that step back, really, isn't it? And realising, because you can so easily get caught up in your own thoughts. And
it's finding those coping techniques to get you just get you to step back. And most of it is literally being present, meditating.
Do you meditate?
Yeah, I do. I'm not as often as I should, but I started listening to brown noise, and apparently that's good for...
Not heard. What is that?
Well, white noise obviously is good for babies, but apparently there's loads of colour noises. But brown
colour noises.
Brown noise is actually meant to be good for calming your mind, and it's meant to be good for people with ADHD.
Really?
To just calm, lessen the thoughts, and just kind of have keep it neutral. So that's...
Because I do find throughout the day, I don't know why, it's just the makeup, but I struggle to not have a thought in my head in the day. It takes a hell of a lot, especially kind of the general form of meditation where I literally just try and sit there in silence and not let anything pass through my head. it probably is every like 30 seconds that then a thought comes in, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's done.
Well, the thing is, I've kind of learnt with meditation that I originally thought it was more of, you know, getting rid of these thoughts, everything just being, you've got nothing going on, you're focusing on your breathing. But actually, it is about having them thoughts, and it's about just feeling those thoughts and letting them pass, and then another thought comes, and that's literally what it is. And eventually, you then realise all these thoughts that you're having, and I don't know what it is, but I thought to start with, this isn't working. I can't sit still like a Buddha and just expect to, you know. And over time, although you feel it's not working, you'll get moments in your day when you're not meditating, and you'll think, I'm having a thought. And you
so
recognise
it makes you
that
more
you're having
self-conscious.
Yeah, that's actually what it does. It doesn't empty your mind. It just makes you.
It's kind of the opposite of anxiety, really, isn't it? Because the anxiety is your mind runs, and actually it gets to the point now where my mind is running off on tangents, and I no control over it whatsoever. No control. So actually, meditation in that sense is like the opposite. Whereas you know you're having that thought, you let it pass.
Yeah, you sit and you think, I'm having a thought. You don't just think the thought. You're aware of the thought, and then that's when you can let it go.
There's so many deeper levels to it, isn't there?
And over time, you think that thought can now go, and that's it. And it's crazy, and it's almost sickening that our bodies and minds go through this. I was saying to my sister the other day, isn't it mad how we feel anxiety? That's a thing that we feel, that horrible feeling,
which is just thought,
is a thing that actually exists.
But it comes out in physical, behavioural ways.
Yeah, and
the butterflies in the stomach, things like that.
And I sometimes think, God, why did you make anxiety? Why does anxiety exist? Why is it a thing? You know.
But why?
So yeah.
It is, yeah. You could kind of rant on all day about it, to be honest, can't you? There's just so much to it. So in terms of having BPD and understanding it, processing it, what have you found works specifically for you?
So, to be honest,
can chop and change.
It really can, depending on the situation of the day. I wouldn't say so much with BPD as such, like coping mechanisms, but being creative for me. If I'm good at doing something, you know, that lifts my spirits. So yeah, being creative and reading is a massive thing for me that I like to do daily, that I would say helps. But also, like, even just getting enough sleep and eating well. I've noticed that, like, if I'm not sleeping and I'm not really eating, it can have a massive effect on what I'm triggered by and the way I think. I would say honestly as well, affirmations is a big part of it. And I try and do them each day. I have a jar at home that I made, and I put like little affirmations on and things that I love about myself on little bits of paper, and I roll them up. And then each day I'll take like 3 or 4 out and I'll read them. And I think, okay. And it's just a bit of, you know, it just lifts me up. I wouldn't say I've actually found what helps me cope in a time of distress.
Yeah.
I haven't found that yet. I just kind of do whatever at the time. It's not.
The time, especially the distress. If I was in a dark episode, I went to a suicide prevention event last week, and the guy talking was, his name's Johnny Benjamin, so he's got a story. So the whole story was, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, he was about to jump off Waterloo Bridge to take his own life, and a guy had just come off a train and spoke to him and kind of talked him off. So he was there doing the talk, and he was just like, he was talking about the relapses, and that kind of scared me because it's been a year almost since I've been out of hospital, and I wouldn't say I've necessarily relapsed and gone through a period of proper darkness again, but it's always in the back of my mind, like, when is that going to happen? Like, when
and you feel like you failed. You feel
Yeah.
like, but I think it's. I mean, I actually haven't got to a place where I could relapse because I'm not actually at the other side yet as such. I'm still like.
Still in the process of
Yeah,
healing.
I'm still in the muggy water of, you know, like I couldn't actually relapse because I'm not actually in recovery. So, but I just feel it. I feel like if I was in that situation, I would try not to like beat myself up too much about it, in the sense of, if it's going to happen, I know I can get out of it, or if it's going to happen, you know, it passes, and not that you want to be back in that place, but it's something to not be scared of.
Yeah. I think that's a massive thing, actually. I think that's probably what it is. I'm slightly scared of it happening because I know I can remember exactly what it feels like, but it's like I don't want that again. Just hold it, just leave it alone. Just
but
please
then
don't.
You know, if you're doing the things that you should be doing,
then it
it's
should
like
be
anyone
easy.
in recovery.
Yeah, I suppose beforehand I wasn't equipped with the
Yeah.
mechanisms and management skills that
Yeah.
I hope I am now.
Yeah.
And actually, to be fair, by coping without having to be in that kind of episode and dark place, it should hopefully prevent it from happening in the first place.
Yeah.
There has to be a kind of big slip. I think a lot of that kind of is triggers of past trauma. So the anniversary of when I attempted suicide, that definitely onsets quite a bit.
Yeah.
And is a difficult thing to kind of process, and because it's always in your it's in your head. Like I know the day, I know the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you? So I've booked a holiday with my friends
Yeah.
at that time,
You know
because
what,
then I've got.
I know it sounds mad, but it's like, it should be looked at as a celebration.
Yeah.
You know,
That is true.
This, you know, it's a celebration each year that you're, you know,
I'm here.
not that there's any pressure that if one year, you know, you do slip, but it's how far you've come from that point to now, instead of it being, oh, that's because you're not at that place anymore. So actually, you know, not to take away the light from, or whatever you want to call it, from that, but it's like,
it's a good way of looking at it.
It's a day, and it's a time in your life that was dark, but this year it isn't. You know.
Yeah.
So it isn't, you're not bringing back that.
It's a nice way of looking
everything.
at it.
Time's always moving.
It's always
moving. So
it's linear.
So it's like, it's, you know, it's a celebration from.
Yeah, I think that's what I've got to see it as now. Actually, that's flipped it on its head. To be honest, I was thinking like that was it, and now it's actually, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm
Instead of
it.
looking at it like, you know, the death of, you know, a loved one, and it's it hits a bit, you know, each year. It's like, you're still here.
Yeah.
You're not, you know, I don't know, maybe you're grieving. Well, you're not grieving that time. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just like the tough times process, and it's just how you can manage it. It's all about management.
I can't, you know. I can't really do much of that, to be honest.
So I think we're almost time to finish.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned a couple earlier, but if there is one particular mindful technique that you love that you think other people should try?
One particular one, well, to be honest, you might not look at it like that, but I would say, honestly, reading, it might not seem like it's mindful, but for me, I like to be productive. If that's totally taken away the thing of being mindful, but sitting down and just reading takes away any thought that I have. I'm distracted, but in a healthy way.
In a healthy way, yeah.
And it's just peaceful. It's quiet.
It's an escape, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'd honestly say reading. I love reading.
Fiction, non-fiction, bit of both.
Self-help, always self-help.
It's always.
Self-help. I don't really like fiction books. I'm very much like to learn things.
Yeah. The real world.
I probably should start reading fiction, actually, just to, but yeah.
Get that creativity flowing.
Yeah, I'd love to write a book. I'd love to do everything.
I'm in the process of.
Are you?
I am actually, yeah.
Anyone with BPD just wants to do everything.
It really is. It really is.
I'll have a bit of that.
Yeah, I could try that actually.
Yeah, I'll probably be good at that. And we are very creative people.
Yeah, and a guy, Ollie, who's been on the episodes before, said like creativity is all about mental health.
Yeah.
It's about that release, finding what you enjoy doing, and get to that flow. Really, it just instantly makes you feel
Yeah.
better, and it makes you feel like you're being productive. It makes
Yeah.
you feel like that you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, there's a purpose.
Yeah.
I love making things. I'm very like, I like sewing, I like punch needle, I like embroidery, I like drawing, painting, I like anything that's art, and I'm good at it. And I think when you're good at something and you also enjoy it,
It's
what more
perfect,
could you
isn't it?
want?
Yeah, it's perfect. That's what passion is, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what passion is.
yeah.
So thank you very much, Catherine. It was
Thank
lovely to
you.
meet you.
And
Lovely to meet you.
I've loved being on here. That's great.
It's been
I love
absolutely
it.
fabulous having you on.
Yeah,
Thank you
lovely.
very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all next time on Sully's Open Conversation. Thank you and goodbye.